We have covered a lot of history at WFAA in the 75 years that we've been on the air. And when it comes to public health, the Ebola outbreak in Dallas stands out as the only one of its kind in the U.S. Tonight, Jobin Puneker looks back at what happened through WFAA's lens.
It was nearly 10 years ago the world became fixated on Dallas-Fort Worth.
Some new developments tonight in Ebola.
There's a lot of concern from residents.
Dallas's second Ebola patient.
The Ebola outbreak that ravaged West Africa was now here.
We have crews on the ground.
It was late September.
I knew when I was breaking it that it was going to be a big deal.
Reducing the number of tests.
Former senior and health reporter for WFAA, Janet St. James, led our coverage.
It was all Ebola all the time.
It was the longest deployment on a public health emergency that we'd had up until then.
Dallas County Judge Clay Jenkins led the response.
This is a critical weekend.
With the state and the CDC.
We had people that were afraid to send their children, for instance, to any Dallas public school.
People were showing up everywhere with symptoms.
A medical crisis set off by a diagnosis and days later, death of Thomas Eric Duncan.
Green or yellow, I think I don't remember.
Bright green.
Yeah.
Okay.
The man whose picture is etched in many minds. Duncan came from Liberia. His fiancée, Louise Tro, was from Dallas.
It was a rush of judgment.
Stanley Gay was a Liberian community organizer and close with the family.
People blame Liberians for bringing Ebola to the country.
There was this paranoia that you were going to be the next person.
Two nurses who treated Duncan at Texas Health Presbyterian tested positive. First, Nina Pham, then Amber Vinson.
It was kind of a gut check, kind of shocking.
As shocking as the images that circulated. Crews in hazmat suits outside their homes, disinfecting but mostly disposing of their things. Families being transported to secret locations for security and safety. Everyone had a part to play. Janet St. James knew to report and to educate without alarm.
I truly felt this responsibility to have rational, calm thought in the midst of what I thought was chaos.
And that anchored information was how it transmitted and how it does not transmit.
Judge Jenkins had to break the news to Louise Tro that Thomas Eric Duncan had died.
Knocked on the door, you look out, you see your pastor and me, and you don't need us to really say anything. And she fell back away from the door and sobbed.
The narrative around that time was that Thomas Eric Duncan and his family should be prosecuted for endangering American lives.
I have no interest in criminalizing people being sick.
She was depressed. It was hard on her because it was hard on everybody. She just wanted it to get over with and to get back to her life.
The same could be said for the two nurses. Nina Pham left the hospital first, then Amber Vinson by the end of October. After weeks in isolation, they were free of Ebola.
Remember, there were only 3 Ebola patients. There were only 3.
But for many, it felt like it was hundreds, thousands. Janet St. James had the exclusive interview with Dr. Gary Weinstein, the man who treated all 3 patients at Presbyterian.
Do you think you tried everything you could?
Yes.
Do you think he could not be saved?
He was too sick.
There was scrutiny at every angle on immigration, hospital protocol, the CDC, even talk of travel bans. The judge remembers being the lone volunteer willing to transport Louise Tro's family to a secret Catholic compound.
And as a result of that, there were protesters outside my 3rd grade daughter's school saying she shouldn't go to school there and she might give the other kids Ebola.
What would follow is a litany of lawsuits that would take years to resolve. But during all that, there was also this.
Because it's a human moment.
Nina Pham's reunion with her dog, Bentley, who was in quarantine.
I don't know if it was my most important story, but it was a big story.
A story still being told. Ebola would set the tone for future public health emergencies like COVID. An international crisis right at our front door. In Dallas, I'm Jobin Puneker.